can you please tell me about the Hebrew roots movement?
Wretched.
Wretched.
Wretched. Wretched. Wretched.
Wretched. Wretched. Wretched. Wretched. Wretched. Wretched. Wretched.
We will give you wretched till it's coming out of your nose.
Hey everybody, Zach again, newtutorial.com, coming in making a video for you today. We're going to continue on with our Wretched series, the Hebrew roots disaster, picking apart Todd Friel's Hebrew roots disaster video, point by point, getting lots of great feedback. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the well wishes as we continue through this series. We got about this video and one more video left to go. So let's go ahead, jump into our first clip and start from there.
I mean, when Jesus said, I didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law, that doesn't mean that the law would never be abolished, because it was when he fulfilled it.
Oh, it hurts. Play it again. Play it again.
I mean, when Jesus said, I didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law, that doesn't mean that the law would never be abolished, because it was when he fulfilled it. This
verse comes up often because people, when they go back and read their Bibles, they discover Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 and through 18 and 19. And this is something that comes up a lot. And so they have these theological gymnastics that they perform in order to get out of this. And there is no getting out of it, especially when you read verse 18 and 19, not just verse 17. It's amazing. Let's go ahead and read the verses. Think not that I come to abolish the law or the prophets. I am not come to abolish, but to fulfill. And they want to read this as, think not I come to abolish, but to abolish. It makes no sense, because what happens is when you realize, yeah, the pork thing, that's abolished. You know, the tassel thing, that's abolished. You know, the whole feast, that's abolished. We do Christmas and Easter now because the feast, yeah, those are abolished. Think not, but then they think. Oh my goodness. It's the same thing with remember. Remember the Sabbath, but they don't do the Sabbath. They forgot. We'll get into that again in a second. Let's go ahead and continue on with verse 18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Now I think you can read that verse and think, well, is heaven and earth passed? Is all fulfilled? You cannot read the Bible unless you're a preterist. That's a whole other topic right there. You can't read the Bible and be like, oh, well, it's all done. You get to the end of the Bible, you read Revelation, oh yeah, that happened already. It's all done. So the law is done away with. No, it says very clear, until heaven and earth pass, till all be fulfilled. We're not done yet. Let's go to the next verse, verse 19. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. I mean, if game, set, match. But they have to use these theological gymnastics to get by this somehow, but they never quote verse 18 and 19. They always stop right at verse 17, and they never quote verse 18 and 19, which seals it home. It's a home run. It's a home run. And let's just consider all that. Consider everything we've talked about up to this point in the series. Okay. Now, I want you to consider this. Let's go to Malachi. Some people lovingly call it Malachi. Malachi 4, chapter 4, verse 4. It says, remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded him in Horeb, for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments. It says again, remember. Well, that means we have to forget, I guess. Remember the law of Moses. Folks, you're telling me that the third to the last verse of the entire Old Testament says to remember the commandments, judgments, statutes, and then 3 verses later, Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, it doesn't matter anymore.
That don't make no sense.
It's the third to last verse of the Old Testament, right before you get into the New Testament, and it says remember the law of Moses and the statutes and judgments. For all Israel, Romans chapter 11, you are grafted into Israel. You're grafted into the olive tree, which is Israel. You are Israel. You are Israel. Remember the law of Moses, the statutes and judgments. Oh, 3 verses later, it don't matter anymore because we're in the New Testament. And meanwhile, in Revelations 12, verse 17, it says this, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So you're telling me, third to last verse of the Old Testament says, remember the law of Moses, statutes and judgments, okay, the commandments. And then at the end of the New Testament, it says the enemy of God makes war with those who keep the commandments. Obviously, they're doing something right. There's a consistency here that you're not acknowledging, Todd. You're not acknowledging this consistency. I think we've hammered this home. I think the game's over. The game is over at this point, but let's continue. He continues on with this clip.
The book of Hebrews tells us now that it has been fulfilled, it is gone. They get confused about that.
Hebrews is often used to show that the law has changed. Really, here's the deal, folks. Hebrews is about one thing and one thing only. Always has been, always will be, about one thing only. The priesthood being corrupted. The human priesthood being corrupted. It can all be summed up in this one verse, Hebrews chapter 7, verse 12. For the priesthood being changed, there is made a necessity, a change also of the law. Why? Because the human priesthood was corrupted. We see this, it talks about this over and over again in the New Testament. It's corrupted. The human, not the law. The law is perfect, Psalms 19:7. The law is perfect, but the humans were corrupt. We have a corruption of the human priesthood. But the change of the law doesn't go to something new. It goes into something that was already true. Genesis chapter 14, the Melchizedek priesthood. Also Psalms 110, the order of Melchizedek, as opposed to the corruptible order of Aaron. See, the order of Melchizedek, Psalms 110, is not corruptible because that's of the Father, directly from the Father. But the order of Aaron was corrupted. And so there exists a change of the law. The book of Hebrews is about the corruption of the priesthood. That's what it's about. Nothing more, nothing less. That is it. The corruption of the priesthood. It has nothing to do with feast. Has nothing to do with eating pork and all that going away in some crazy theological gymnastics performance here. No, it's talking about the corruption of the priesthood. So therefore, we have a need of a change. Not to something new, but back to something that was already true. The Melchizedek priesthood, Genesis chapter 14. The first mention of it. And if that wasn't enough, if you just read it, you'd be able to know that. If that wasn't enough, we have in Isaiah 66, again, every Bible scholar on the planet will tell you Isaiah 66 is about a future time, a millennial reign of our Messiah. And what does it say? Verse 21, and I will also take of them for priests and Levites. Take of who? The Gentiles that come out from among the nations, the northern kingdom of Israel. It says, I am not sent but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's the words of our Messiah. The house of Israel was scattered into the nations, and then he brings them back. And when he brings them back, I will also take of them for priests and for Levites. Because why? The original order of Aaron was corrupted. And so he's going to take new priests, new Levites, from amongst the people he brings out of the Gentiles, Isaiah 66. Isaiah 66. Amazing. And so once you understand that the priesthood was corrupted, the book of Hebrews, you can't use that anymore for an excuse that the law has been done away with. The perfect law, it says, Psalms 19:7. It's perfect. Man is not perfect. God's law is perfect. Todd, please. It's time to go home and read your Bible. Thanks.